Hi, Ashley here and welcome to Funky Fresh Food. It's almost Valentine's Day and this year I want to do something a little bit different. So over the next few weeks I'm going to be showing you how to make an awesome vegetarian Vietnamese Valentine's Day meal. And this week we're making a vegan pho. Now I've always pronounced this pho, but I found out from doing a little bit of research, very little research in fact, that it's actually pronounced pho. Pho is a traditional Vietnamese dish and it's normally eaten early in the morning or late at night, but it's super tasty and delicious to be eaten at any time. Traditionally it's not a vegetarian dish because the stock is made from simmering animal bones for hours and hours over a stove, which gives a really rich tasting stock but not really suitable for my vegetarian Vietnamese Valentine's Day meal. As the stock provides the main flavour for the dish, I'm going all out and making mine from scratch to make sure this dish is absolutely delicious. We'll start this by putting our dried mushrooms in a jug, covering them in boiling water and then leaving them to soak for at least half an hour. Now the dried mushrooms that I'm using are a mix of shiitake, oyster and porcini mushrooms, but you can use whichever ones you fancy as long as they have a nice deep, rich, earthy flavour. Once our mushrooms have plumped up and come back to life, we're going to drain them, give them a wash a couple of times under some cold water just to make sure we've got rid of any of the grit that can sometimes be hiding amongst the mushrooms, and then drain off any excess water again and set them to one side. Next up we're going to peel a couple of white onions and then chop them in half and chop a medium-sized leek up into about 4 chunks. We'll then put our large pan onto our hob on a medium heat. We'll spread out our onions and leeks over the base of the pan and leave them to dry fry for about 5 to 10 minutes or until they're nicely golden and starting to char on the bottom. We'll then flip our onions and leeks and leave them until they've charred on their other side. Whilst that's happening, we can prepare the other vegetables for our stock. We'll chop up 1 carrot into large chunks, chop our ginger in half, and using the flat side of the knife, bash it like you would a couple of garlic cloves just to release all the juices and flavours from the root. We'll also core and chop up half an apple and half a pear. We'll add all of these to the pan along with our soaked mushrooms before topping it up with water and giving it a good stir. We'll slowly bring this up to the boil before popping a lid on and letting it gently simmer away for an hour. At this point we'll remove the pan from the heat, give it a good stir around and then leave it to one side. Now to increase the depth of flavour of this stock, I'm going to leave mine to cool down overnight and to really let the flavours settle in. If you don't have the time, you could just move on to the next step straight away. But if you're making this for Valentine's Day, you should probably put in the effort. Now to add a different type of flavour to the stock, I'm going in with a load of aromatic spices. Star anise, cinnamon sticks, cardamom pods, cloves, coriander seeds and fennel seeds. The reason why I didn't put these in with the stock initially is because if I let it bubble away for an hour and then left it overnight, the flavour would be way too strong. So we're going to bring our cooled stock back up to the boil and then let it simmer away for 10 minutes before we strain it. At that point the aromatics will have done their job and they really will have imparted a lovely but not overpowering spice flavour to the stock. Now it's time to taste and season our stock. I'm going in with some sea salt and palm sugar, but give it a taste and work out how salty and how sweet you want your stock to be. I've also rescued a few of the larger mushrooms from our stock vegetables, given them a quick rinse in cold water and added them back to our freshly seasoned stock. To add substance to our pho, I'm using a flat rice noodle. Now this is my favourite type of noodle, but if you prefer another one, why not use that? And if your loved one prefers it, then use that one, it'll make them happy. Like all noodles, our flat rice noodles are really easy to cook. I'm just putting them in boiling water for 5 minutes before taking them off the heat, draining them, rinsing them under cold water and then setting them to one side. If I'm preparing this well in advance, I like to dish the noodles out into separate bowls straight away because they do have the tendency to clump together after they've been sat for a few minutes. In a meat eater's pho, you might have some sliced beef or pork or chicken on top, but as ours is strictly vegan, we're going to have some lovely lemongrass tofu and mushrooms. We'll start this by removing the outer leaves from our lemongrass before finally chopping them up along with some cloves of garlic and an onion. Next we'll drain and chop up our firm tofu into largish cubes. We'll follow this by roughly chopping up some mushrooms. I'm using yellow and grey oyster mushrooms as well as some field ones, but you can use whichever type you can get your hands on. We'll put our frying pan on a medium-high heat, add a splash of oil before adding our onion, lemongrass and garlic. We'll gently fry this for about 5 minutes before adding in our mushrooms and tofu. I like to turn up the heat at this point and fry them until the tofu has browned a little. Our final step is to prepare some garnishes. I've finely sliced up a red chilli and a couple of spring onions, picked over some basil and coriander and washed some bean sprouts, and now we are finally ready to assemble our pho. So I've just eaten possibly the biggest bowl of pho I've ever had, and that was incredible. Like, it exceeds all my expectations. That broth is an absolute winner. It's got the deep, rich, mushroomy flavour, a little heat and warmth from the ginger, and then those aromatic spices, they are just perfect in it. Not too overpowering, but an absolutely wonderful flavour. I also love the lemongrass tofu and mushrooms that I did. That adds sort of like a nice freshness, and then you get a crunch from the bean sprouts and the lovely herbs on top. And when you get a little bit of that chilli as well, whew, it provides a little bit of heat to the dish. Like, it is absolutely tasty. My girlfriend loved it, my mum loved it, my dad loved it, and he doesn't even like tofu. So it's an absolute winner. I'm definitely going to be making this recipe again, but next time I'm going to maybe do double or even 4 times the recipe, so I can make a big batch of the stock and then keep it in my freezer, so then when I fancy some pho, all I need to do is prepare a bit of tofu and some noodles and I'll be good to go. I hope you've enjoyed today's video as much as I've enjoyed eating the pho. I really have enjoyed eating the pho. If you have, then why not leave me a like, and if you're not subscribed to my channel already, then hit that button so you can stay up to date with all my future videos. Next week I'll be concluding my Vietnamese vegetarian Valentine's Day meal mini-series with a Vietnamese inspired dessert. But in the meantime, I'm gonna try and not eat any more of that pho. For tonight anyway. Bye!